Today I want to try and fix this motherboard. It's an ASRock B450 gaming ITX. I bought one of them broken on eBay that I think is fixable, and then I bought another of the exact same motherboard that was still broken, but I think it will help me diagnose this first one that's more fixable. So let's take a look. Here I have plugged in some known good CPU and RAM. I plugged in the power, but when I try and start it up, it starts and then immediately stops. The fan spins for a moment and then it cuts out. Let's unplug the CPU power connector and see if that changes anything. Sometimes that can point to VRMs or CPU power area. And it stays on. Interesting. Let's just double check here that it's not shorted to ground in any way. The positive 12 volts from the CPU. Nope, that looks good. So let's take this thing apart and start testing voltages and resistances. I'm going to start by taking off the VRM cooler and then do some testing on the VRMs that supply power to the CPU, as well as test the V-core voltage. So let's get some pictures of those VRMs, look up a data sheet, and poke around. Okay, so here's the data sheet. We now know which pins are where on the VRMs, so let's give those a test and spend the next 7 days probing nearly every single component on each board and testing for any differences between them. Damn, yeah, I'm gonna need some of these. It is at this point where I spend many hours for the next 7 days looking exactly like this, just with needle probes. This would have been a lot quicker if the board view was available for this motherboard. If I had found a bad voltage on a certain component, the board view could tell me exactly what that component is connected to and make it easy to find. But I didn't have the board view, so each time I wanted to trace a voltage, I had to touch every component around it until I heard a beep, and also compare to the second motherboard to make sure it should beep. What I noticed on the one that I think I could get booting, which is this one, is that if you look, there's the chipset, and then right here, this is our BIOS. And it's not plugged in, so I can't show you, but it's power pin. You can just look up that WinBond chip and find out which one's VCC. If I recall, it was, I don't even remember, maybe this one. But it wasn't getting 1.8 volts, which is what this chip requires. It was getting about 0.3. Doing some more troubleshooting, comparing it to the other board while it was in standby, I found that this inductor, this coil, was showing 0 volts on standby, meaning you didn't press the power button, but power is plugged in and turned on. This was showing 0 volts on standby. The one that works was showing, on that same one, was showing 2.5 volts. And I found that that's the 2.5 volts that goes to a couple pins down here at the bottom of the RAM slot. And tracing it back, I found that it's, I think this is the 2.5 volts is created by this MOSFET. And I looked up, you can't see it because of the camera, but it's like a FFK147. Couldn't find any data sheets on that. But I tested if there was any short through it on this one and the other ones. They all matched up. But I did finally find something. This capacitor right here, if I touch it, well, right now if I touch my probes, they beep, right? So I'm going to put one of them on ground, and then if I touch that one, I get nothing on that end, and I do get ground on this end, right? But this end, nothing. A working capacitor, well, at least presumably. But on this board, is it? Right here. On this board, there's that same inductor. There's that same capacitor. So if I hold ground, I'm getting a short to ground there and a short to ground on the other side. So I don't know for sure, but I'm just videotaping this in case it is working, that this capacitor blew and is shorted to ground, which is shorting the MOSFET to ground, which is making this not get 2.5 volts, which, you know, throughout all of this, something or another, we don't get 1.8 volts on the Winbond, and it never boots. So let's go ahead and try and get this capacitor off. Probably gonna need some flux to get this to flow a little better. This board really sinks some heat. But we got it off. We'll just clean it up a little. Now just testing to make sure the short is gone. Then I'm going to desolder the one from the old board and put it on here. I got a little excited and I did not record myself doing that. So here's the fixable board after I moved the capacitor over. It's a really freaking tiny capacitor and it took a lot of work to get it in there, and I still managed to solder it crooked, but I did test it and it's not shorted anymore. And it's working. We got to the BIOS. I did not record myself when I first tested it, but I wish I did because I could have punched a wall. I was so excited. This is one of the first PC motherboard repairs I've done. Had a lot of fun and I learned a lot, and I'm glad to have it working. I still spent less than buying this motherboard new. You can get this motherboard new on Amazon for about $150, $160, and I paid 40 bucks each for these broken boards. So I basically got some free fun. Anyway, thanks for watching.